think
The Center for SDG is on mute. Cannot hear you.
Would you please
Can you
unmute?
hear me now?
Ada, would you
Yes,
please
I can hear
unmute?
you now.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
I can see you well now too. Quality education.
So this. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending from where you're all calling in from. This is a very special event that we call Education Solutions at UNGA 76 Section Roundtable Forum. The United Nations General Assembly 76 session that is currently on, and this event is always an event that we do in line with the theme of the United Nations General Assembly each year. So this time, we are, of course, we know that education is the principal factor in when we talk about development, whether it's human development or national development, education is an important aspect. So this has been our baby right from when His Excellency Ambassador Dennis Antai was at the UN as the Vice President of UN General Assembly 69 section. He sort of helped to craft this idea, and since to then, in how many years ago now? I think 2015 or 2014, it's a long time. We continued to do that, even when he left the UN and came back again to America, to the United States, we still continue on this event. So he remains our father and advisor on this initiative, Education Solutions, at UNGA 76 session, with focus on the education at community classrooms. When we talk about community classroom, we look at the rural communities, what is going on in the rural communities in terms of education, in terms of learning, in terms of teaching, in terms of students, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of teachers, teaching and learning materials. And now with the new normal, what is next? What is happening in the education community, in the community classrooms? So it has been a passion in us that we need to not only talk about education when we refer to national development, when we talk about urban areas, but we refer to education when we look at the rural communities. This is very, very important because the UN Development Agenda, which we have less than 9 years to go, almost less than 9 years to go now, has emphasized in great essence about leave no one behind. And so if we're talking about quality education, we're looking at the urban cities. What about the children in the communities? What about the children who are less privileged? What about the children who don't have access to schools? They don't have access, neither do they enjoy meals, school meals, or vehicle, nothing. They don't have even teaching materials. Are we carrying them along? Are we leaving them behind? So this has been a very innate passion, and we have continued to bring this knowledge even at the UN Day of Education, which happens every January 24 each year. So the Forum on Education Solutions at UNGA section is the flagship event of the Center for SDG Global Education USA, Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Foundation International, at United Nations General Assembly section each year, in creating a platform for diverse stakeholders to hold expert discussion in line with the theme of the UNGA. in addressing quality and inclusive education in community classroom. Of course, expanding on the SDG 4 of the development agenda. The forum offers innovative solutions, strategies, and policy recommendations with the view of advancing quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning in community classrooms and sustainable development to respond to the theme of the UNGA 76 section. And the team is looking at building resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainably, respond to the needs of the planet, respect the rights of people, and revitalize the United Nations. This forum will gather distinguished discussants to a discussion towards a proposal on framework for action that will create a legacy which can lead to a 2-year measurable outcome along the United Nations Decade of Action and the Day of Education, with significant focus on the community classrooms. So following a diligent discussion, consideration of outcomes from the relevant sections which we held this year, the 2021 UN Day of Education, which was held in January, the 2021 High-Level Political Forum, which was held in July this year, the 2021 Second Bajuni and Irene Menaka Legacy Lectures, which was held in August this year, and the Education Solutions at UN General Assembly section, Roundtable section will discuss rebuild quality, inclusive education, and revitalize community classroom in post-COVID-19 recovery along traditional education curriculum, teachers and professional well-being, digital education and technology, infrastructure for quality education in community classroom, funding for sustainable quality and inclusive education. This forum will tend to outline strategies and with respect to traditional education, pedagogy, digital education, improvement of learning and teaching environment, as well as funding in responding to rebuilding quality and inclusive education that will contribute to revitalizing community classroom, teaching and learning for educators and students in an improved learning situation in post-COVID-19. So with this, we have I was trying to address an issue that, a minute. I was trying to address an issue that, a minute. I don't know if anyone can see me. Are you seeing this chart?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
I was trying to address an issue that, a minute. I don't know if anyone can see me. Are you seeing this chart?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
We can see.
I was trying to address an issue that, a minute. I don't know if anyone can see me. Are you seeing this chart?
Yes.
Of what we're
Yes.
trying to
Yes,
do.
we can see it.
I was trying to address an issue that, a minute. I don't know if anyone can see me. Are you seeing this chart?
Yes.
Of what we're trying to
Yes,
do.
we can see it.
I was trying to address an issue that, a minute. I don't know if anyone can see me. Are you seeing this chart?
Yes.
Trying to do.
I think we are stuck here. Maybe we should move on.
Address an issue that, a minute. I don't know if anyone can see me. Are you seeing this chart?
Yes.
Trying to do.
I think we are stuck here. One. I think something has got stuck. Maybe we should move out of the screen.
Yes, very muffled. And I think you are operating on two screens. I don't know whether that's a problem. There is a feedback which is creating a delay, and it's really restricting proper communication. You need to determine which screen are you operating from. That's good.
No, it is still very muffled.
But it is still very muffled, and you are appearing from two screens, and it's apparent that you're getting a reverberation. So you have to decide how you're going to use these two venues. It's no good. It's no good. It's no good.
Yeah, you're appearing on two screens. One small one and one big one.
Recording. I have to.
Now it's clear.
It's clear. So I've stopped the YouTube. That's why it's clearer. I have to stop what the other device as well.
I think Dr. Okika is using two devices. So you just, I think you just shut one devices, either audio or video, and just leave one sound. And maybe that will be easier. Yes, great. But you have to unmute so that we can hear you. Yes.
Is it better?
Extremely
Yes.
better.
Absolutely.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I have to stop the YouTube. Now, Fabian, can I make you a co-host so that you can do the YouTube?
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to help. I think Ellen also can help. She is a technician. So you want to broadcast now in your YouTube right now?
I'll stop the YouTube because of the echo. Unless you want me to put it back. Because
No,
if
I
I
think
put
this
it,
way
it will
we
be
can hear
echoing
you
at the
better.
background. Sorry?
This way we can hear you better.
Okay, fine. So let's go on. Let's go on.
Excuse me, do you intend to share our program to outsider? That's why you share your YouTube.
That's
Right.
fine. That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
I think it's important that you record a program so that we can broadcast later.
Okay, that's fine. So
Okay.
Yes, this was what I was trying to do, that this is the summary of the entire project that we are trying to address with respect to providing solution to rebuilding quality and inclusive education for community classrooms. So with this, we can see traditional education and innovation. How do we use the resources from the community environment, the cultural resources environment to rebuild education in the communities? How do we now take it up with this new normal, bringing in the digital education in the rural communities? And this project has devised a Rural Plus, which we are looking at a digital school in order to address quality and inclusive education. One of the speakers will talk on it later today. Then the total mission of the entire agenda on education solution is to focus on quality and inclusive education in community classrooms, SDG 4 and target the decade of action and the 2063 agenda. The 2063 is the African Union Development Agenda, and the issue about education is also included, is one of the target concerned areas on the agenda. We're also looking at targets of teachers teaching and learning, as well as students and parents in the community. Of course, we can't think about development of education in the community without considering the funding aspect and how can we move the fact forward. Then the pillar also rests on the pillars of learning in bridging the gap on community education. We're looking at learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together. And these are the pillars that we want to consider in trying to move this mission forward. And the outcome of the whole thing, the foundation of the entire thing, is solution for core education values on community classrooms in driving the SDG 4 on the decade of action. So this is the summary of all we are trying to do. And the outcome of it all is to begin to really advocate, move a policy that we can begin to look at what concerns us with the interest in moving the development agenda, which said leave no one behind within the communities, and also improving community schools. So this is just the basis of what we tend to do. And I want to introduce His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Dennis Antoine, who is not only a father to this initiative, but has continued to guide this initiative from the onstart to this level. I invite him to take over the program, and I rest my case. Thank you all for coming. Your Excellency, Ambassador Antoine, unmute yourself. Okay, good.
Good morning and good afternoon, good night, good day to each and every one of the panelists, wherever you are. I believe that your presence here is a commitment to the word and the action to educate each other, to educate the future, and to ensure a better world. Ada has asked me to take over, but I hope as convener she would stand by and ensure that I am leading you in the right direction. Let me say that today we are gathered. You know, sometimes when you use those terms, we are gathered. We are gathered because we are committed people, like-minded people. And this occasion is not an occasion to just talk. I hope this occasion, as is stated in the theme of this event, is to identify, to label, and to share solutions. Now, why solutions? Now, you would remember that now that COVID pandemic has unmasked and exacerbated the same human socio crisis which summoned the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015 is upon us. We were trying in 2015 to bring attention to the anomalies, to the shortcomings of the education infrastructure in our countries. And today, with the pandemic, we have so what it's all about today, it's about education solutions. It's about the goal that resonates to have teachers rethink, innovate, and policymakers struggle to provide reliable support for education. And that must take place as teachers scramble. And I mean teachers where there has been inadequate access to quality education. They are now sliding back to greater challenge because we are online, we are distance, and already there was this gap in the education system in the different jurisdictions that were underserved. So what this is all about, parents as teachers today have surfaced with a need, and this stronger partnership is compelled. In other words, when parents must guide children learning as a support mechanism at home, this link didn't really exist between school and home. And so today, you and I, as interested parties in how we bring solutions to this process, I want us to lend our voices, share our innovative sense as to how we should go forward. This is not about talking about what's wrong. This is identifying what could be better and sharing so that we become innovators, we become contributors to the solution and ensure that the SDGs, we can't forget now that the SDGs still exist. It's almost as if all the other diseases that plague education went away with COVID. It didn't. COVID covered it up. So let us go back and take aim at Sustainable Development Goal number 4. What is its meaning? And the 10 targets that would have bring to our communities a new sense of appreciation, inclusion, equitability. So this is where we are. Drastic change is needed to ensure these rights, this action must be taken now for quick recovery from COVID crisis to minimize the risk for future potential crisis. So we now have to recognize that distance learning relates to technology. You remember, technology began in the 80s, but some of us were left behind. We didn't connect. So we have to connect now so that we have a sustained and an equitable access unto 2020. Remember, we have a decade of action going on to see if we can recover to get to 2020 at a reasonable state for education. I don't think I should continue to speak. I believe we have a number of panelists before us, and the order of the panelists have been stated in your program. And I think it is time, because it's 11:25 now, we passed our period. I'm wondering if we can begin with the individual speakers. And so the Royal Majesty, is he on board today? Ada, did you see him, Sophis?
Not yet in, so His Excellency Ambassador Pina will take over.
So then I am very honored and very pleased to present to you, colleagues, a distinguished, I call him professor, educator, but also a very learned linguist who has interest not just in people's tradition, but the impact of tradition on the way we are, and the impact of culture on the way we are as it evolves generation to generation. So I need not say more, but to let you know that Ambassador Pinus, who hails from Suriname, has also lectured and studied and led his diplomatic mission in China for many years, where he studied and is one of our revered colleagues, not just in diplomacy, but in education, culture, and traditional values. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I present Ambassador Pinus.
Thank you very much. What a marvelous introduction, as we can only get it from Ambassador Antoine. Now, I was hoping to be the person to speak after we would have an introduction about traditional education, but now you throw me in the ocean and let's swim. Now, from my understanding of the discussion and the information that we were supposed to receive before I would share my point, I understand that we will talk about the classrooms in the rural areas. And how I relate to this is looking at the situation in Suriname, because I'm more familiar with that, and also yeah, in parts of Asia. Sorry that I cannot give you concrete examples of situation in on the African continent, but that will be possible soon, not far from now. Well, as we are talking about education in the rural areas and we're looking at the culture, I believe that from what I can relate to, being more or less similar to the African continent, I see the culture in Suriname, in the rural part of Suriname, where we have the Maroon population. It is a replica of what we have in the African communities, and the tradition in that culture is that teaching and learning goes from mouth to ear, say mouth to mouth, mouth to ear. So as we have it in the whole Caribbean region, we learn preschool and also out of school, we learn traditionally through storytelling. And there you see the emphasis that is laid on the way people use language, the way the grandmas and the grandpas will teach the children values, social values, and also other necessary skills. And they do it with storytelling, and they tell you story about Anansi. I'm sure that each and everyone who's listening right now must have heard of Anansi. And we hear that Anansi is brought over by ship through the Middle Passage and arrived in the Caribbean region, and I think also it must be in the northern part of South America. So where Anansi comes from, I hope that Anansi is not forgotten, and that Anansi as a educational tool is still applicable, and that there is no confusion to leave Anansi out of the tradition. Not exactly Anansi, I mean, but we do understand what I mean by the function of storytelling. Through the culture, I believe that the attention that is paid to the oral tradition has been rooted in the culture, and to build on that is probably the better way to improve scholastic education, because it relates, it is not just related, it is the same as the upbringing, the culture, the upbringing. So in that tradition, it would be worth reviewing the quality of education. And when we're talking about the quality of education and taking into account, I try to cover as much as possible, because I think that by bringing all the points together, we would come to a better way of understanding how technology would work in this case. Ambassador Antoine just mentioned that the technology was brought in, or technology equipment was brought into education around the 80s. As I see it, technology applied to education serves two functions: to make it efficient and to make it effective. So this effectiveness, I do believe that we understand what is meant: effective teaching and effective learning. Through technology, you bring in visual aid so that in the process of teaching and learning, you have a visual aid which fills in the saying, "A picture speaks 1,000 words." So how to manipulate the visuals to emphasize the key points in learning. Yeah. So let's say we work with visuals because I had the opportunity to also, have gotten this information at a very early age because of my dad, who specialized in photography. Well, in teaching, people try to have visual aid. So when you bring up a certain topic, you make it more clear to the learners by providing these visuals so they can see more than is said. Okay, the words are coming out of the visual also. So that is then contributing to the effectiveness of what is to be instructed or taught to the learner. The efficiency is that you can save time, and this efficiency is not always handled with care, because in school, when you bring in the digital technology or this technology, when you bring it in, you must also be careful not to distract the learner, because the medium, the instructional medium, is very important to select. If you select the medium that has complexity in it, it takes the learner some time to understand this learning aid, this learning tool. And when it's not understood, what I see that many of times the technology that's brought in actually to make things more effective is much more distractive, because the learner is distracted for not understanding the deeper side of this technology that is so sophisticated that it is not understood by the learner, and it is perceived as entertaining because of its complexity. So therefore, I keep it short and just want to put out these points. Yes, so the tradition and the quality of education, whereby we are paying attention to the efficiency, but the efficiency should not be that much efficient that we lose track of the effectiveness of what it is we want to bring to the table, what it is that the teaching part wants to give to the learning part. Yeah, so these are the points that we have to keep in mind when we are designing or applying this technology with the aim of improving education in the traditional setting. As I mentioned it before, maybe in another setting, it is about understanding how traditional culture becomes a sorry, not traditional culture. We're talking about traditional education, because in my mind, sometimes I just pull everything together, but let's go slow. Traditional education, yes. How to find the education tradition in that, meaning that we're looking at the culture. And in the culture, we see the specific elements which are the buildup of the communication in the society. Yeah, how is the communication between the young and the old, and therefore not confusing the community by bringing in technologies that are not readily accepted in the day-to-day life of those we try to assist to expand their understanding of the world. I believe that I can keep it here for now, and thank you very much for the opportunity given, and I would like to give it back to our host. And if there are any items you would need me to clarify, I am online. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, my colleague, Ambassador. I believe you have touched on some very salient points. Now, technology as a tool is what my focus is. Technology is not a solution. Technology, in spite of its might, has to be applied through human intelligence. And so it requires, therefore, that we are to learn how to implement this tool. I am very pleased. Your scholarly presentation has guided us to really think broader on the subject. And with us today is a very enlightened individual. And I am very pleased to keep this dialogue going by introducing to you the mayor of Belmopan, Belize, in our CARICOM Caribbean region. I am delighted to ask our distinguished honorable mayor to please enlighten us and help us to bring Ambassador Pinas's ideas into focus as we identify deliverable solutions coming out of this dialogue. Madam Mayor, I am pleased to ask you to take the floor.
Yeah, worship, unmute yourself.
Please unmute your mic.
Yes. Sorry about that. Pleasant good morning from the capital city of Belize, Belmopan. It is indeed my honor to be here with you all to share my information on teachers and their professional well-being. Thank you, Ambassador Antoine. Thank you, Dr. Ada, for having me here. To begin with, as we all know, COVID has caused a lot of changes in the way we think, in the way we deliver, in the way we operate. At the University of Belize, I memorized that education empowers a nation, and that still remains true. Once upon a time, a teacher would determine his or her success when independent students are produced, that they can continue doing their work as if though a teacher doesn't exist. Now, what really makes a teacher is the love for the human child, for it is love that transforms the social duty of the educator into the higher consciousness of a mission. At this point, we do not know how learning in a classroom is going to look like, especially in the case of Belize. Children are not back in school, and prayerfully, it's about to begin. I am not sure if teachers will have the luxury to say or believe that children can work independently as if they do not exist. Allow me to share a little bit about my country. Belize's educational system has been hit hard by COVID-19, like all other countries around the world. Many schools have seen significant decrease in enrollment. Many persons have lost jobs, unable to afford their children's education. Indeed, in Belize, the community is in a tailspin. Crime has increased along with the gang activity. In fact, there is a de facto recognition of gang leaders who are literally holding the government and country hostage. In a recent radio show, the Commissioner of Police has expressed great disappointment in the way gangs, especially their leaders, are handled. In desperation, he suggested that penalties for crime committed should be severe and treated as terrorists rather than seeing them go unpunished or just minimally punished for crimes committed. Looking at that scenario, when we're looking at professionals and especially specifically highlighting teachers and their well-being, if we do not have a safe environment with the already fears that teachers has, the situation of not feeling safe is an issue that we all need to look at. And I'm sure that what's happening in Belize is not only Belize alone. The community is at a loss as the weeping continues unabated. As I speak, we have a third form student, and he was in our terms, we would say an upcoming summa cum laude student, and that student was gunned down. Since I had this commitment with Dr. Ada, I am not able to attend the funeral, but I decided that I needed to say something. That student was gunned down, and these are some of the things that keeps us as a society, as a nation, very scared. So it is time to introspect. It may seem counterintuitive that COVID-19 has generated an environment that is allowing us to look into our souls, explore our environments, and look at what works, how we can become more self-sufficient, more resilient and adaptable. This seems to be the moment when hearts and minds can converge at the highest level to critically analyze and solve national and global issues. Belize continues to challenge our colonial education, economic and political systems that never allowed us to grow and prosper in country where nature has blessed us with wealth untold. It is time to develop and set a new curriculum in motion, making use on all natural advantages, including the multiple resources with which the country is immensely blessed. In our forests, there are not just trees to process lumber, but also an environment for tourism, conservation, medicinal herbs, as well as indigenous knowledge that has developed over centuries. Beneath the earth, there is gold and petroleum and much more. In our seas, there is an abundance of marine life, as well as marketable marine environments, ideally suited for the development of a nation through value-adding productive processes and tourism in all its dimensions. This is in addition to the under-tapped potential for maintaining a living barrier reef, and that's the biggest in this hemisphere. We must devise a new education curriculum that puts all this into perspective. Our young people are perfectly poised, naturally intelligent and gifted. Indeed, they are major resources. They must and will deliver. With matured and wise guidance, there is nothing that they cannot achieve. This is the path that we must take as we prepare and adjust to the COVID-19 pandemic or future ones to come. We must embrace technology and solve our problems in a holistic manner. Common sense tells us that every solution has a problem. We have witnessed great disenfranchisement and marginalization of people. The poverty rate for less than 500,000 of our people is at all-time 52%. In our capital city, many persons are landless, while a few persons own thousands of acres of land for speculation purposes. So when we're speaking about well-being of a professor, we need to look at things that the government should provide for them. For example, access to land. In my country, we need to do far more for our professors who spend a lot of time or all their time educating our children. Job creation remains an issue. The challenge of job creation and entrepreneurship must be a part of the holistic development as well. There is a brain drain whereby the educated and non-educated alike migrate out of our communities and take up residences in different parts of the country, leaving the rural areas and settling in the capital city. We have a lot of squatters, and the rural schools remain, I wouldn't say, I'm trying to find the word, but there is a significant difference between the rural schools and the city schools. A significant amount of our people, they've all migrated to the US. We have more Belizeans living in the US than in Belize. Fortunately for us though, we do not go to the US in caravans, unlike some of our Central American neighbors who traverse Belize in caravans to the US, risking it all to enter. We can ill afford to ignore the many who pass through Belize northbound. This critical mass of immigrants are all opportunities that are being lost almost daily. There must be homegrown solutions to curb the brain drain, Politicians and decision makers will need to be held accountable as the transformation evolves. The time has come to create new opportunities. At times, the solution is right before our eyes. It gives me great pleasure to share that as the mayor of Belmopan, I am blessed with competent people that are futuristic and well prepared to see and contribute to change. The professors who we interact with all the time, there are things that they must do for themselves to be able to maintain their well-being. So in closing, I have a few points to share that I want to contribute to the world of professors. We're living in technology has made the world a small world. Just look at us today. We are communicating with persons on this platform from all over the world. Today in Belize, the reception, the signal is very good. There are times we deal with third world internet, and today it is behaving very well. So connections can be made with persons from all over the world. Professors do not need to feel as if though they're alone. They are not swimming alone. They have other professors they can connect with. In the case of Belize, we are the bridge between Central America and the Caribbean. We're separated by 2 bridges, one for Mexico and one for Guatemala. And also to travel to the US, it is only 2 hours from here to Houston, for example. So connections for teachers, it's right at the touch of a button. As well, teachers need to continue helping each other. Dialogue with your fellow teachers. Find out what's happening so that children's issues can be discussed. They can use the consultative approach to look at some of the issues, and together they can conclude with meaningful solutions. Teachers for themselves need to find a daily routine whereby what they do today is what they do tomorrow, and maintain that routine so that they can impart structure to our children. Taking breaks is very important. Going on a retreat, taking time to, what we call here, free up your mind. We're exposed to all sorts of traumas, domestic violence. I highlighted previously the gangs emerging day by day. These are some of the things that as the primary educators of the country, taking a break can allow time for thinking. Professors, teachers always need to remember that before you can care for others, one needs to care for themselves. So self-care is very important. Setting goals at all times, nurture a positive self-view. Our children are watching. Keep things in perspective and maintain a hopeful outlook. All the time, teachers are the number 1 motivators. After our parents come teachers. As a result, sharing with our children, and it's not what children hear, it's most of the time it's what they see. Teachers need to continue looking for opportunities for self-discovery at all times. Learning is continuous. I remember in my field of studies, personality development begins from birth and it never ends. It dies with you when you die. So there's always space and room for improvement. And last but not least, at all times, one needs to be flexible and always accept change. So with that said, I want to thank you for allowing me to share a few words. And finally, in Belize, we are a multicultural society. We have multiple cultures and we have various ethnic groups and we get along fairly well. Allow me to share with you in closing, we have the Creoles, the Mayas, the Mopan Quechua, Garifunas. I am a Garifuna woman. We have the Chinese, the Mennonites, Arabs, and Indians. Each of us with our own idiosyncrasies. We have our own languages. We have our own cuisines, our own music and dance, traditions and businesses. Indeed, we need to reimagine and showcase our multiculturalism as part of the educational enterprise we can develop to give life and industry to our people. Lastly, our post-COVID-19 preparation must be based on latest available scientific data, which in itself entails continuing education that is inclusive, respecting our diversity. We must fine-tune our education and development by challenging the problems we face. Multiculturalism is an untapped potential. Young people need to be offered education at the highest level at accessible rates. We must value what we have and use them wisely. Creativity, and I repeat, creativity in education is a must. Community building must be explored in all its facets to embrace a new future where people are engaged, productive, and safe. Land must be made available to those who want to work and live the lives that make them productive and happy. With that said, thank you so much. In my language, I say sereme.
Distinguished Mayor Salome, I believe you have graced us with your presentation and the power of the pandemic to make us focus. But you focused us on a larger world of intellectual space. And therefore, you speak well about new organizational standards. I want to applaud you on your work in cultural and multicultural diaspora heritage linkages, which you have espoused and promoted. I believe that as we who are like-minded global educators, we see a broader space for sharing, collaborating, and learning. Madam Mayor, you have enlightened us, and I'm sure the panelists are very well tuned to your presentation. I thank you. I thank you for enriching this panel. I think we've had some very, very attentive listeners. And the distinguished doctor from South Africa has been waiting patiently with us. That's Dr. And I'm going to try to say your name correctly. And it only shows you how we have been removed from our African tongue. But I hope I get it right. Dr. Shah, I think is Shiva Senguyata. You have the floor, and correct my language, and let us have you enlighten us with your presentation, please.
Ambassador, you're jumping Jessica Cole. You was supposed to speak before Dr. Chivaji.
Okay, well then I stand corrected. I am sure the panelists wouldn't mind.
Okay.
So let us move on, please. I want to move it on. And so Ada, you make the introduction, please, of the next speaker.
Jessica Cole, where are you from? Federation of World Peace and Love. That herself and her worship are treating the teachers and professional well-being. World Peace.
Jessica, Dr. Okika is calling you, Jessica.
Hi. Sorry, I
Yes.
forgot to unmute myself. Yeah.
Jessica is speaking from Canada.
Yeah, I'm from Canada. I live in Canada right now. And it's really honor to join this meeting today. And this is, and we can exchange our thoughts and experiences in this meeting. So today I'm going to share about, the topic is enhancing community education with integrated in-person and digital learning that incorporates in, spirituality and technology. Yeah, and I may need, yeah, okay, thank you, Alan. All right. And please go to the next page. Yes, hold on a second, sorry. Okay, so I will talk about the 3 electronic strategies, the platform, and the current issues and obstacles. Yeah, no, I couldn't see the screen, sorry. Let me upload. Okay, yeah, and the approach and our achievements. So next page, please. So as you know, I'm also a member of the Federation of World Peace and Love, and the Taijimen Qigong Academy, and the Association of World Citizens, and also a volunteer in these organizations. And during the pandemic, the three organizations we joined together made 3 electronic strategies to implement digital and community education, including health electronic life, sustainable electronic culture, and happiness electronic community. Because we hope that the world will be free from COVID-19, wars and natural disasters, and man-made calamities. And humanities will achieve a peaceful world of oneness where everyone is happy. So in the picture, you can see 3 organizations in the middle of the house. Yeah, can you see that? Yeah. And the first group in the PPT is Taijimen. You can see the yellow logo on the left-hand side. It stands for the Healthy Electronic Life. So we know humans are pursuing physical, mental, and spiritual health. And through online learning and practice, it also improves humanity's holistic health. And you can see on the right-hand side, it's FOPAL, which stands for Sustainable Electronic Culture. In this unstable world, through the promotion of digital education, the most precious gift for humanity is love and conscience. It can be expired, which can heal people's pain, inspire hope, and transfer the future and create peace. But the most important thing is that through the epidemic prevention e-books, everyone can live in peace with nature, stay away from epidemic, and return to normal life as soon as possible. So you can see in the bottom of the picture, which is the AWC, and it stands for Happiness Electronic Community. AWC is like Association of World Citizens. So through digital education, it promotes human rights, educational, cultural, and legal and tax environment in the community. So hoping to build a peaceful world with justice and righteousness. So next page, please. So regarding the innovative education platform, in our organizations, we have abundant digital contents, such as stories of conscience, videos, songs, and electronic manual for this disease prevention. Yes. So do you mind if I share one of our digital content? Ellen, can you play Be the Spark, maybe? Yeah, this is one of the, there's no sound. Oh, Ellen, we couldn't
Ellen,
hear.
I think Ellen, you need to unmute yourself so that the video can have sound. Because I think this video is very interesting with the sound.
You can bring some laughter into the world by putting on a good show.
What a fun idea. I wish I knew some magic tricks or jokes. Well, Mr. Rath, do you know how to change the world? Look, we are building wind turbines so everyone has cleaner air to breathe. What a cool idea. I wish I was tall enough to reach. Hello, Globe Globe, marine neighbors, Globe. Do you know, Globe, how to Globe change the Globe Globe world?
Of course, we are changing the world by cleaning the ocean, making sure the garbage isn't here anymore.
That's a neat idea. I wish, Globe, I could hold my breath longer. Hello, Mr. Panther. Do you know how to change the world?
I certainly do. Knowledge will not lead you wrong. Education can make your brain strong.
What a bright idea. I wish I could read along.
Yes.
Hi, Mrs. Elephant.
Yeah,
Do you know
Maybe we can stop
Charles?
now. Thank
I
you.
will all
Jessica, you unmute. You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I will. Okay, thank you. All right. I will. Okay. I will share that is one of our curriculum, our e-learning curriculum, and that I will share a successful story later about this program. So as you know, we also reach out from home to the community. And the platform, we focus on integrated learning that incorporates sustainable spirituality and technology. So first, through the digital platform, we provide educational facilitators with the opportunity to learn and form a consensus and promote relevant ideas and digital content through physical context and social media. And secondly, we provide a reporting system. The results of each person's performance will be uploaded to the system as text, photos, and videos. The system provides a dashboard and a DNA tracking system, which can be used for statistics and analysis across Taijimen, Fopao, and AWC. So the results are presented digitally and can be used at any time. Thirdly, the result of the implementation are posted on the websites and written in a book and the newspaper. And e-news are also published weekly to share with the community through social media or website. Okay, next page, please. As you can see here, there are still some current issues and obstacles. So like the privacy, the security, the content development, and information hunger and anxiety, or uneven distribution of resources. But actually, you will find the problems can be solved if everyone could follow their own conscience, whether they are the educators, the learners, the designers, or the decision makers. Because we believed the important thing is to integrate conscience-driven education into every aspect of the education process. No matter what role a person plays, each person is responsible for himself. Yeah, next page, please. So actually, we have been promoting conscience-driven education through cartoons, just like you just watched before, and the stories and the virtual events on the International Day of Conscience website. We call them IC Day website. If we have time, we can share with you later. So actually, those materials, the instructors can use these resources for learners in moral education or other issues, such as human rights, global warming, and gender equality. They also can invite others from their countries to share their own statements of conscience, participate in youth forums, and use social media to integrate the International Conscience Day into a broader context to promote our practice. Because we believed the most important element is if the platform and the content are well prepared with the heart, then the platform is innovated, because we can naturally provide an excellent education to the receivers if we make them happy. Because we believe real happiness is generated when true love and a joyful heart are ignited. Yeah, next, please, next page. All right, so let me share some achievements we have so far. On the weekly basis, there are 6,200 volunteers devoted 75 minutes each day in online education. And the preventive manual is transferred into 42 languages, and we share it globally since the pandemic. And the movement of the area of conscience was supported by people in 200 nations, and the declaration was endorsed by 194 nations since 2014. And the Declaration of International Day of Conscience released in 2019 and has received support in 195 nations. Yeah, thank you. Next page, please. So I'm going to share with you one of our successful program, which is one of our member, Dr. Lin. She promoted the conscience education program on the website on Santa Clara County in California. So there are 500 schools have benefited from this program. She also received the 2014 Award of Excellent Paper for the program. So at the end of the presentation, I would like to invite you to listen to a joyful song, and we also made it as one of our curriculum, which is happiness is everywhere, because I want to encourage all the participants today and let our shiny smiles light up the world. Okay, Ellen, please. I wanted the song Happiness is Everywhere.
Ellen, the sound.
No sound.
Your sound.
We can stop now. Yeah, we can stop here. Thank you, Ellen. Yeah, I want to say thank you again, and I want to invite everyone, let our shiny smiles light up the world, no matter what we are suffering right now. And we always want to share the positive energy with each other. And thank you for listening. Yeah.
Just add one more thing, all the materials are free for download from our ICD website that I just copy and paste on our dialogue box. So you are welcome to watch all these videos. And for the kids also, they can use it at school. So, okay, thank you. We can talk more later.
Okay, thank you very much. I thank you very much for, I think it's an enlightening presentation. I want to take note that the impact of education on human behavior and a human response to natural stimuli processes teaches us, as you are showing, that we can't teach conscience, but we can inform to influence behavior. I want to express appreciation to you for such an enlightening presentation. And as we keep moving on, I believe that we have so much to hear that we should come out with something very positive from this gathering. Now, Dr. Shivaji Sengupta, I believe many of you would know him. He's an American academic and educational administrator, and his words may be more cogent than mine because he is an English professor at Columbia University. But today, what he does, he's a serious freelance journalist. So he has compiled and combined his vast knowledge in education, language, and now he's telling the world. I want this panel to be enriched by your words, and I offer the floor to you, Dr. Shabija.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Can I be heard?
Very clearly.
Okay, my name is Shivaji Sengupta. I've been living in New York for 52 years. I got my essential bachelor's education in India. And since then I've been in America. I'm very honored to be invited here to follow great dignitaries like the two ambassadors, both of whom have talked about education and technology. But Ambassador Piñas has mentioned something very important on which I need to follow, which is technology is all very well, but you have to know how to use it. And I'm going to add to that, to use it, you have to be in touch, you meaning the student. The student has to be in touch with his or her intellectual skills and affective skills. By affect, I mean the way we handle our feelings and emotions when confronted with a new and often threatening situations. My presentation is on education and technology. Traditionally, first-time college students are given academic tasks they are expected to perform using computers. Success depends on the student's intellectual caliber and computer savvy. Today, I'm going to bypass all that. Instead, I will speak on how digital technology should be used as a supplementary and not as the main tool, especially for adult minorities not accustomed to computers and therefore not possessing enough computer literacy. Under these circumstances, digital technology is best used not alone by the student, but in the company of what we call an educational facilitator, one-on-one or in small groups, where the facilitator can help students to navigate the internet while engaging in a specific academic task. If the student is at ease with the task, the facilitator lets her alone, only occasionally asking clarificatory questions or giving suggestions. The faculty intervenes only when the student is having difficulties, either with the computer or with the digital text. In such cases, the student and facilitator together read the digital text. Often the student intends to follow the hypertext indiscriminately. There is a hypertext, let's click on it and see where it goes. The facilitator can then help the student keep focus on the main text and only traverse the hypertext he knows are relevant and will be helpful to the student. In such cases, The facilitator also engages the student in a critical discussion of where the hypertext has led the student to and helps her to integrate only the information to the main text on the screen. The student and the facilitator consciously and strategically use the intellectual skills of comprehension, application of theories, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation to understand the subject matter knowledge. The student takes notes digitally or in hard copy, depending upon his or her skills with computers, then goes home and writes responses required by the personalized instructional module prepared by the facilitator for his or her students. This method is called individualized instruction. The same method is used in a group of 10 students sitting in colloquium format in a circle without desks, so that we can also see each other, not on FaceTime, but in real time. Here, they study a course related to what they studied during individualized instruction, the two sets of texts resonating each other. Only instead of the intellectual skills, the students use affective skills of learning, of listening, responding, and values. Of course, they are free to and do bring the intellectual skills, but the focus is squarely on affect. By affect, I mean awareness of our feelings and emotions given a particular moment and how we manage them during conversations. The digital medium may contain values-ridden texts giving rise to affect. It may be a lecture, film, docudrama. Students participate in discussions not necessarily initiated by the facilitator and sharpen their skills of value along with the protocols of receiving and responding. The facilitator keeps the discussion focused and helps with the knowledge clarification. The students take notes through, although in colloquium, note-taking is kept to a minimum to give the students maximum opportunity to engage each other. If students show anxiety about not remembering everything that was discussed, the facilitator assures the students that what they remember is what is most relevant and useful to them. What is to be learned from the colloquium is to be decided by the student and not only by the curriculum. Students are often very pleasantly surprised by this viewpoint. They go home and write the logs, combining what they have learned, the colloquium dynamics of who said what to whom, and an evaluation of how the session has been important to them. This is what happens in my college, Boricua College in New York City. It's a college founded by Puerto Ricans and is 90% Latino studentship. Students are adults, which is why what I've described is possible. And they work together in a community, and they go ahead and extend this community to outside of the college as interns and teach young children the same thing. It has been often asked of me whether this method I've described can be implemented in my hometown, home country, India. After all, millions of Indian college students coming from poor families must face the same situation that my Latino and African American students face here in New York City. I have been visiting India annually since 2004, with the last 2 years being an exception because of COVID. During these visits, I have tried to interest Indian universities in what I call human-assisted education with digital texts. The human-assisted is very important here. I have received only lukewarm reception. This happens in most societies where education is centralized, the curriculum uniform, and the teaching and learning largely traditional. Even so, I've been able to make some headway in one or two non-traditional universities. In Indira Gandhi Open University, I've made some official connections with individual professors who are trying this experiment. Their students too are poor. Their students too do not have broadband. Many of them try to make up with their mobile phones, just like our Hispanic and African American students do in New York. What they do not have, that is in India, is a cogent curriculum of intellectual skills and affective development. That is what I've been trying with some of the professors in India, with very little success so far, but there is success. Let me conclude this with a bit of romance. For centuries, human beings all over the world had roles instead of jobs. Then after the European Renaissance, this began to change. Science and technology started transforming roles into jobs. Roles is defined as specific responsibilities people have, the fulfilling of which moves society forward. But they can change. From the teacher to the medicine man, to the astrologer, to the soothsayer. Jobs do not change. They are specific and specialized. One man, one job. I submit that in the age of internet and the tremendous explosion of knowledge, the world of jobs is again, at least in part, giving away to the world of roles. The facilitator's role is that of a teacher, mentor, advisor, and colleague to her students. We have seen here in this session, the mayor of Belize talk not just as a mayor, but as a teacher. Talk not just as a politician, but as a lover of people. What she said about the young man who passed away exactly brought out what I'm trying to say here. The importance of love in education, an importance of love connecting education and technology through students. As students succeed, the facilitator is enhanced. As the facilitator is enhanced, the student is cherished. The digital media makes all of us learners, brings learners together, both facilitator and student, the lover and loved, and knowledge is born. Thank you.
I want everybody to take a deep breath. I think that the professor has revealed his connection to human learning and human ingenuity. I believe that India, as he has indicated, has and is contributing quite a lot to the application of technology. Being in India and D.Y. Patel and other open universities there, I found it very innovative work going on in there. Professor, I want to thank you. You spoke about jobs and roads. And I am saying where there is a way, where there is a will, we can find a way to make us all lovers of learning and knowledge. At this time, I want to move very quickly on before I turn the floor back to Dr. Ada. I want to move on to a very special participant in this program. You would notice in your program, we have Edgar Chuma Menakaya. Now, this gentleman is one of the very skilled executive director and chief operating officer of Ba Juni Menakaya Foundation, the convening entity of this dialogue. I want to bring Chuma to the floor and make reference to the fact that you may identify his name as relating to our director and convener, Dr. Ada, because I think it's in the family. So I am bringing on the brother of Ada, Dr. Ambassador Ada. I bring to you, your brother, to enlighten us, because he's an engineer. He just is not, he is into technology, the technical knowledge that we must have to input technology into our process. Dr. Edgar Chuma Menakaya, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you all the panelists for the opportunity to once again be in your midst. No doubt that technology today, like I've spoken with the previous presenters, the importance of technology in today's world after the the enmity of the pandemic that we all experienced last year. Like I'm introduced, I'm the outreach director of the UN representative for Bajuni Menaka Foundation, and I am also the president of Majesty Consultants Inc. in New York, which specialize in engineering and technological services to the construction industry. One of my main themes of talk today is about the the connectivity and the importance of applying digital education in today's world, and also for the future that we are moving towards into, knowing the fact that there won't be a second thought that there's a possibility of another pandemic happening again. But we hope it will not, and it will be as bad as what has happened last year. And that in turn helps us now to kind of begin to think, broadly and outside the box on how we can actually, get education, to be reached to every person. We at Bajin Foundation, we are, doing something that we've called a Royal Plus, which I'm going to explain later, as I'm, talking. But for now, I want to kind of establish for us the foundational and fundamental for digital education. Like I said earlier, the pandemic occurring and the whole world got shut down for about a year. No doubt there is need for a new transformative way of educational learning. Underlying concept, education, a development agenda to achieve the SDG goal of 17 goals and the 167 targets, successes by 2030. We've got 9 years, just 9 years remaining. The SDG, development goal, put the picture and link all 17 to solid development goals. So what am I trying to talk about here? The importance of knowledge, education towards achieving these sustainable development goals. And, ensuring good tactical strategy to enable high quality education that will include all communities. So that's the kind of foundation and the fundamental for digital education in our today world. And importance of education, we all know that it helps to gain and improve knowledge. The saying that knowledge is power, improve social and economic status through life, helps in our career growth and personal growth. It is the birthright of every living person on planet Earth. No doubt about that. There's no argument on that. Helps in living a better and a peaceful life. These are some of the importance and impact of having an education. So digital education basically is an innovative use of digital tools and technology during teaching and learning, often referred to as TEL, technology enhanced learning, or e-learning. Use of digital technology can give educators opportunities to design engaging learning opportunities in the course or subjects they teach. digital education can be of two forms. Either one is blended learning, that's combination of face-to-face interaction with online activities. And the other one is online learning, gives flexible study schedule, and many other forms that these two forms can bring. But the vision for Bajuni mission and aim and objective for digital education, which is one core area I want to present to us all today is, one, the vision we have is to establish a digital education system, rural for continued education in communities of developing countries to meet quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning and the SDG 17 goals for 2030, global sustainable development. Our mission, that is the vision, that the mission is to establish a Center for African Transformative Education in partnership with local education institutions, agencies, private and global partners by addressing and applying the 4 A's: affordable, available, accessible, acceptable for education. These 4 A's. And our aim is ensuring every community enjoy continued quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning, access to high quality, affordable, remotely delivered education program. So the objective through the rural project that we are actually, we have initiated already, and we already have a process of various implementations. Through the rural project, what the objective that we want to really put into place is to develop exciting digital education curriculum for remote learning based on the global agenda on quality and inclusive education, develop comprehensive digital education system with appropriate teaching and learning resources in rural communities, implement a program of widespread access to personalized 4 A's of digital education system, invest on affordable personalized electronic devices to enable individual participation in remote learning education program in rural communities, access to high quality, affordable, remotely delivered education system. So the rural plus pillars of learning, okay? So these are some of the things that we are working to really help to bring the education closer, especially in the rural communities, whereby no person is left behind, because we all know and understand that education knowledge is power, and education brings a lot of positive, benefit to individual, to the society, to the communities, and to our countries, our nations, and to the globe at large. A model created to position quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning without leaving anyone behind. That's one of the core things. Benefit from the opportunities education provides through life. So the 4 pillars of learning, is learning to know, proof for the rural is learning to know, a combined broad knowledge, general knowledge with the opportunity to work in depth on a personalized level. Benefit from the opportunity education provides through life. That is learning to know, which is under the 4 pillars of learning, some of the things we want to achieve to make you really understand. The second part is learning to be, which has 2 parts: to develop one's personal and act with greater autonomy, judgment, and personal responsibility, provide individual with self-analytical and social skill to develop their fullest potential. Then learning to do, to acquire occupational skills, to be competent, knowledgeable, and ability to solve problems with the teams of various backgrounds and skills, provide individuals with the skill to effectively participate in the global economy and society. And the 4th one is learning to live together, which would develop an understanding of other people and appreciation of interdependency, carrying out joint projects and learning to manage and resolve conflicts, develop the values of mutual understanding, human rights, democratic principles, intercultural understanding, respect, and peace in our society and human relationships. So these are some of the principles that we are trying to bring in under these pillars to be able to bring in education closer, around the globe, even to rural places that has not been, that education has not really been that effective. And we have established that education brings in all these 4 pillars of learning, the impact it can actually bring in our society, in our communities, in our lives, and individual lives at large as well. So the foundation is working and implementing some actionable projects in the establishment of the foundation in the past 2 years. Some of the things we actually have done so far is that we have established an endowment fund through higher education in Nigeria, established a global care partnership with Ms. Kakom for ENA Kids Scholarship Fund on early child education for children from vulnerable homes in rural communities through Irene Menakaya School in Onitsha, Anambra State, Nigeria. Awarding of 100,000 naira to best graduating student in education in 1 federal institution and 1 state institution in Anambra State in Nigeria. In partnership with CITEDA through Gregory University in Nigeria by organizing an executive education program for the educationists on improvement, quality, and inclusive education in communities. The foundation is working to provide solar power system in the community to enable the establishment of education in the rural community. So I think that's what I'm personally involved in that project. We're trying to provide a solar power grid system to be able to provide power for these rural communities or schools to be able to have access to power for the for the network system to be able to have access to these digital education and technological systems as well. So basically, Bajim Foundation, we we just successfully achieved this vision, mission, and aims and objectives with the foundation's desire to implement this project across the community of developing countries. So we are at the same time, we call on, in order, we can't do this all alone. We are also calling on philanthropists to help support the vision of this Rural Plus project. We call on technological companies to partner with the foundation to enable the digital technological network capability in the rural community. We welcome, donations on technological equipment, computers, and international partners to help in achieving these goals. So together we all can ensure that no child, will be left behind, and indeed knowing that, at the end, my child is my pride. Thank you very much.
Let me thank you, Chuma Menakaya, for your very, I think, revealing contributions that your foundation continues to make for and toward improving education in many communities. I believe you have touched on the whole issue of teachers' well-being. And you talked a lot about teachers and professional well-being, rebuilding quality, inclusive education. I'm going to talk a little bit about rebuilding. Why rebuilding? Because we had something. What's wrong with it? Is it reconstruction? Is it renovation? Or is it remaking? So we're going to go on. However, we have many voices here, and I think is Enki Weissert. If I'm saying it right, if I am not, I beg your correction, please. I would like you please to unmute yourself and to come to the panel and let us hear your voice. Enki Weissert, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much. My name was correctly spelled. My name is Anke Weissheit.
Thank you. And so you have come to us with a perspective we are eager to hear. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, honorables, ambassadors, and dignitaries, and all protocols observed. My name is Anke Weisheit, as I said. I'm born in Germany and I'm working in Uganda and have established, co-established the Farm Biodrug Center, Farm Biotechnology and Traditional Medicine Centers. We are educating master's PhDs students and community indigenous knowledge holders on traditional medicine. So I'm speaking on the indigenous innovation and entrepreneurship, education, innovation, and infrastructure for quality education. Now let's go. This is in brief the SDGs and how traditional knowledge and indigenous knowledge can contribute. What is indigenous innovation? These are based on idea or challenge generated by national borders or enhancing original innovation through co-innovation and re-innovation. Why indigenous innovations are important in education? Focusing on local needs, low cost, easy usage, distribution, comfortable in tropical climate, local knowledge generation and expansion, and basic of local growth and development. Under indigenous knowledge holders are available in the communities. For example, traditional medicine practitioners, we have per 500 people population of a country like Uganda, one traditional healer is available. So the density or availability of traditional medicine practitioner or indigenous knowledge holders are in the community. So how can we bring innovation pathways in educational settings? The youth innovate advanced technology development to solve current challenges, self-development. Youth and researchers working together to develop innovation. And hackathon, these are innovation events where students and researchers do project-based learning and solving existing challenges. So the community education is not only teaching content, but also stimulating innovation within the student learner environment and within the teacher's environment. It's very important the students to help them to innovate. The teacher should also learn and practice innovation so that he can put the knowledge into practice on the students. So the students-based innovation, demand of modern technologies, the modernizing shift of change. Students like to get new things, easier to work with, or making life in general bit easier. A need for low investment in production, yet of raw materials available. Then we have the young innovator and the researchers working together to fill the gap. And this could be with the researchers' knowledge or reducing labor needs, mechanization, increasing continuous standards, more user-friendly or higher value for the products in the environment for the natural resources to be used. Now, young innovators and researchers can work together to have joint projects and bring the technical input to the next level. Testing proof of concept in a wider audience, increase trust of the products by non-community members. So rural communities can have innovative projects and products developed and then bringing them to the urban markets. That is how the students become busy, because idleism was mentioned by several speakers before, that during the COVID, students are idle and not to progress in their life skill and in their education. So through innovation, they could be kept busy until the school system comes back to normal. Solving challenge in accessing raw material by increasing mobility on farm domestication. That is an example where the raw material, once identified, can come to the farm, and therefore the rural income can help. So the young people's innovation can lead to more demand and therefore more production in the farm later. So here this is just briefly an innovation model. We have the innovation stimulation, which can be a school, a university, a teacher training college, or a community outreach center. And they work together with different actors and get support by different organizations, working with the indigenous knowledge holders and other external technologies. And now they're participating in the innovation process, getting community challenges or innovation identified, and then the system will support the community also with technology adaptation. The same system will provide entrepreneurs and spin-off companies and experienced experts. So being an entrepreneur is not when I'm 18 years old. Students of various ages can start innovating and be productive, at least as long as the school cannot reach. In Uganda, for example, the biggest challenge is for online learning, that the internet access. Now, internet access has different challenges. One, physical access, that the internet is not there. Secondly, technological access, where the end instrument, the laptop or the phone, is not affordable, not accessible. Another element is power. These instruments need to be powered with electricity. And another big challenge is the price, the access. If the internet is there, you can't afford the gigabytes needed for online learning. So meanwhile, we don't have access. This would be a model, an idea, what could be done when there is no access to the digital world, which one you are now explaining in different presentations. So what I recommend young innovators to establish innovation hubs from the university up to the teacher learning centers. Why? We cannot stimulate innovation at learners level when the teachers who are teaching them are not innovative. So we start from the higher education, we start from the teacher training and go down to the students. Integrate innovation process in school curriculum and organize inter-school level innovation fairs. Brokerage among innovators, students, researchers, technologies, and business communities. And respect. Innovation process is usually unique, and therefore the behavior of the students or innovators also have specific needs. This is not classroom and ticking a box, learning content, reciting content for exam. No, that is actually touching the real community, real issues, and this is sometimes hardly to mark. Usually it's hard to mark innovation. That one, the society will mark you, because with your output, the better you are, the society will mark you, not the teacher. So in the incubation, to develop system on innovation incubation, first to find the innovation itself, you either to find it by existing or stimulating students to innovate, especially from formal, non-formal, and community setting. Establish funds for young innovators to gain and provide concept level. We'll go from concept to the ready for investor. Foster innovators mentoring and innovators incubation at school and community level. And robust institutional education and development policies. What next? First, we need to retool the teachers. Learn to appreciate indigenous knowledge. Inviting indigenous knowledge holders in the teaching classroom. Having the living libraries in the classroom, having the teacher. Let the IK holder be teachers. In the contemporary school and education system, the intergenerational knowledge transfer is inhibited. Students spend a lot of time in school, some time in boarding school, and therefore very little access to the elders. So the elders transfer less knowledge to the younger. Can we simulate these by bringing the elders into the classroom and give them time in the classroom space to do the traditional teaching, hands-on storytelling, and other indigenous way of teaching? Get also the students, go to the community and learn from the elders one-to-one physically. Students, while out of classroom, while out of internet or any electronics, which are the majority of rural community students, let them learn skills. Let them learn how to do a craft, how to do local crafts, various crafts. Integrate technically independent learning. Do learning hands-on, demonstrating without computer, without technology. Not everyone can afford or have it. Get teaching practical, back to the roots, back to before, BBC, born before computers. There are techniques we can use to keep the engaged to do that. Now, increase school community relationship. Foster establishment from school community relationship centers. These centers could have access to reliable internet and video conferencing facilities. So sometimes not every student can afford to have a computer or laptop or a handheld device, but they can come to a center with a good video conference facility and engage with the online classroom. Having books and learning material for offline engagement. There's also an option for self-paced learning online content. That is called digital granaries. There is content which is loaded on the computers, on the equipment at the learning center and can then be used offline, not internet needed. Now, in these community relationship centers, there could be community labs established where to conduct science experiments, prepare healthy foods, herbal medicine, natural cosmetics, and other crafts and art. So workshops, community workshops, where students can learn any craft at the level of at the age level available and possible. So usually schools are built by constructor and they are given to the students later. Why not bringing the students together with the people who construct and they let work out and work together to build a school? Community role models are part of the learning infrastructure. Lead farmers, artisans, provide their space as classroom. That could be an option to bring the students to the owners of knowledge and practice. Businesses of learning space, hotel, restaurant, local processor, fabricator, workshop. Why can we not place students in a rotational place that 2 weeks hotel, 2 weeks processor, 2 weeks fabricator? So students learn hands-on, using their hands to learn. And then self-placed learning challenges, giving students community challenge on the tackled by themselves. They do it themselves. They go to the learning center, check the computer, check different solutions, and then get guided by lecturers available. The lecturers at home, they are not working, they're not teaching. So they can come to these centers and actually be the mentors in these centers, not the teachers, but the mentors. So thank you very much. And I'm available for questions and comments.
Wow. I'm sure many would say, wow. I believe that you have touched on some very salient points. I love the part about intergenerational engagement. I love the part about teacher retooling. Now, remember, the learning style or attitude of the teacher impacts the student. And it is very important that you've highlighted the intergenerational engagement, particularly with designs and housing. And now, one very important point I would like us to pay attention to is the fact that you say, why not go back to including the elders in the process? I don't think it's about going back. I think it's about keeping up, because past is knowledge, and the more you live, the more you learn. So the elders have learned a lot more than when they were young. So we have to remember it is inclusion. I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much. And, you know, if you would remove your screen, we would go on to the other speaker, please. UNGA, again, Anki, right? I think you excited me, and I don't hope that the others are not excited, because I believe when you look at the panel, Jessica seemed to be the young person among us. We don't have any youths. We don't have, you have to be careful here that we're not talking to ourselves, because if we're talking to the future, we are in it. So where are those who are the guarantors of the future? We have to get the children on board. Get on board the children of the world, so that we do not keep talking to ourselves and you get me hot and I am hot and we are massaging ourselves today. Let us stop and say what UNGA had just said. Where are the children in the process? So don't keep me too excited here. I want to go on because Professor Geoffrey is awaiting us. And when you see the scope and the depth of this professor's engagement in education, you would see why our panel is so enriched with his presence. I cannot, it would take us another session for me to reveal to you how much he has taught. And so, Professor, I want to do you justice. I want you to speak for yourself today. I want you to come and enlighten us and contribute to us your point of view on the topic in which we're engaged. Professor Geoffrey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, Ambassador Dennis Antuna, Your Excellencies, and all dignitaries in this webinar. My name is Geoffrey Sechaba Mahlomahulu. I'm from South Africa. I am a professor of education at what is called a rural-based University of Mpumalanga, which is in the northern part of South Africa. So today I thought I would want to deepen on the discussion that we initiated last time, and try to focus firstly on, I will not be talking directly to the concept of community classroom, but it will be embedded as I continue in my discussion. And I understand that community classroom, yes, I've heard that it's about rural schools, schools in environments that are vulnerable and so on. So I'm bringing to the fore an understanding of 4 ways of getting engaged with the concept. That firstly, I see it as community. The concept of community classroom for me implies community in the classroom, which emphasizes issues of equity, promoting that in the classroom, equity in terms of all forms of possible marginalizations and exclusion, gender, race, socioeconomic status, and so on, social justice, freedom, promoting freedom, peace, and hope. So for me, the understanding of the concept of community classroom, that would be the first mere understanding that I have. The second one is around that community classroom might also refer to classroom in the community, which means that in the pandemic situation that we we just are going through, or have just gone through, where classrooms themselves at school are closed, but these are now distributed into the community, where able members of the community, maybe somebody who would have more stable internet connectivity, would bring in children in the neighborhood closer to his home to still access learning. We know that, especially in Africa, in our context, that we are not equally endowed and so on as communities. So those who have facilities such as those would serve members of the community in the nearby environment. So for me, the notion of classroom community evokes such images where we support each other in communities where the classroom itself at school is distributed widely, and different members of the community taking different roles to support learners, especially during crisis situation. My third understanding is of classroom for the community, where it's about empowerment of the community through learning, along the concepts that Paulo Freire did make very popular, where people who may not have had the chance to go to school are given the second chance to learn in the community. So that would be the third one. And then lastly, I'm understanding that to refer to community for the classroom. You remember the previous one was classroom for the community, and this one is classroom for the community. Community for the classroom, where the community is coming out there to support the classroom itself. So now, in order to get into this issue that is at hand for us this afternoon, this evening, I thought I would want to talk about young people, young children, especially in early childhood learning environments. And then I wanted to, I'll be talking to these conceptions of community classrooms as embedded in this presentation that I will be making. And now this presentation explores challenges, but most importantly, emphasizing the corresponding responses in teaching, learning, and curriculum at early childhood learning environments during the pandemic. This exploration is conducted in Sweden, Kenya, and South Africa. Now, for me, the three countries represent some of the best practices in early childhood education across the globe. For example, Sweden is a member of the OECD countries, and majority of these countries are in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Americas. So it represents quite a huge number of countries. On the other hand, Kenya is one of the leading countries of the African Union, another huge conglomerate of countries. And among those, Kenya has distinguished itself as one practicing good early childhood education policies and practices. And then lastly, South Africa is an associate member of the OECD country that I referred to earlier, and that it is also a member of the majority countries of Brazil, Russia, India, China, the BRICS power bloc. Now, South Africa is one of the leading economies on the African continent. It is one of the leading economies on the African continent with a strong early childhood education practice for its more affluent sections of the population. Now, this presentation assumes that if early childhood learning environments are sustainable, then they can withstand and survive the deleterious effects of the pandemic. This assumption is based on the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which the entire humanity bound itself to and agreed to operationalize. This notion focuses on fostering economic development of all individuals in all countries. It also advocates that economic development should be environmentally sustainable. The SDGs also aim at ensuring social inclusion of all, irrespective of ability, gender, race, socioeconomic status, religion, or any marker. The point we are making is that sustainability in early childhood education ensures that there is unending economic development of all in an environmentally respectful manner towards social inclusion of all. The notion of sustainability is important for this presentation because it has been cascaded into the powerful priorities of the Africa Agenda 2063. And these emphasize the crafting of a prosperous continent with a strong education as its basis. The SDGs and the Africa Agenda 2063 found further expression in South Africa's National Development Plan. Its chapter 9 stipulates very specifically the targets and the outcomes for educational practice, starting with early childhood learning environments. The idea of early learning environments is also adapted from De Korte and Fraser, who recognize the important influence of the learning individual's context in the development of academic performance. Sustainable early learning environments, therefore, are contexts that foster optimum and quality growth and development of children from birth, at least until third grade in a primary school. This context, as shall be demonstrated in this presentation, include effective mediation by able others, be they parents, siblings, friends, and or teachers, as in community classrooms, as I've explained. The above being effectively facilitated through appropriate curriculum and or learning content and managed well through supportive structures of governance. Now, Sweden is well ahead of Kenya and South Africa in terms of its trajectory of economic development. It's a rich country. Kenya's rate of growth was also relatively higher than that of South Africa, although the latter's economy was a bit bigger. When the pandemic struck, almost all these economics experienced a huge shock as a result of the economic lockdown that became necessary as a measure to respond to the spread of the virus. Factories and businesses were shut down, and so were schools, including EC, early childhood education centers. People had to observe social distance to avoid droplets falling on and being inhaled by others in the immediate environment. To date, a few of the schools and centers for ECE across the world have reopened. All people across the globe are still compelled by their respective government to wear masks when they are in public spaces. They are required to use sanitizers and to wash their hands for at least 20 seconds with water and soap regularly. Now, in Sweden, with a total of 10 million inhabitants, almost all children, about 98%, between the ages of 4 and 9 years old, attend creches, nurseries, kindergarten, and or formal primary schools. The level of unemployment are very little, around 10.2% mark. Children were cared for at these creches, kindergarten, and primary schools during the working day to enable the parents to attend to the demands of the employments and businesses. Learners in the early childhood education centers are taught by relatively qualified caregivers who have requisite skills to impart relevant curriculum. The resources are also provided in good measure by the Swedish government to ensure continued and effective teaching and learning. Even when the pandemic struck, learners continued to learn from home through well-coordinated TV and radio programs, as 100% of the population have access to this media, as well as the internet. One of the challenges was to ensure that Swedish children continued to learn effectively during the pandemic. Caregivers and teachers of these children were still not adequately trained to mount effective teaching using remote technologies, as was necessary during the lockdown. They required training in transferring their whole curriculum content online and to make it attractive and interactive, as we have seen one of the examples that that was presented to us today. It had to be attractive and interactive for the young early childhood learners. Even parents did not have sufficient teaching and learning skills to support their children in this new learning context. They were required to know the content of the curriculum, that is parents, and to parents and teachers, and to manipulate remote learning software in a manner that enriched their children's learning experience. The greatest challenge was the tender age of the children. They still required optimum parental support. Their levels of self-regulation that would enable them to learn on their own and progress successfully therein were still at the rudimentary stage. Even in Sweden, which could be considered to be relatively homogeneous in terms of language groups, there were still language minorities who came from Romani, Yiddish, Sami, Tornedalian, and Finnish groups. The Swedish education system promised equity to all in the provision of resources and opportunities, but the immigrants and some of the minorities groups still experience levels of exclusion due to the socioeconomic status then in the country. Some of the challenges mentioned above faced early childhood education provision in Kenya as well. While Kenya's population stands at 54 million, it is 5 times the size of Sweden. Its gross domestic product is about 98.84 billion US dollars compared to Sweden's 534 billion US dollars. This explains the differentials in terms of early childhood education resources provisioning. In spite of the limited wealth, the good performance of the Kenya's early childhood education provision up till the advent of COVID-19 is attributed to the support and pioneering work of the Netherlands-based Bernard Valier Foundation, BVLF, which secured more funding from the World Bank and partnered with the Kenya Institute of Education. The latter organization, closely linked to the Kenyan Ministry of Education, worked together with the BVLF to ensure that ECE, early childhood education, reached many of the rural children in Kenya who would otherwise be left out due to the relatively low levels of the economic output of the country. The pandemic seems to have reversed the gains that Kenya had made on the ECE, early childhood education front, as many children stayed out of school during the lockdown. Catering for 13 language groups also compounded the problem. The government was extremely cautious to protect the lives of learners, but the provision of early childhood education was dealt a huge blow as the country did not have sufficient resources to sustain remote teaching and learning. The provision of sanitizers and big enough teaching and learning spaces for socially distanced in-person interaction were limited. Kenyan population has 100% access to radio broadcasts and about 65% to TV programs. This means that although early childhood education learners could be reached through radio programs, the same could not be said about TV broadcasts. On the other hand, Kenya has 85% internet penetration, which is a little less than in Sweden. This implies that many do make use thereof. However, the poorer households suffered more during the lockdown due to limited access to these resources. The greatest challenge in Kenya is still the training of caregivers and teachers of early childhood education, as advanced skills are required to design and upload relevant, effective, and interactive materials for learners to access learning ubiquitously. Parents in Kenya left children without sufficient support when the lockdown eased, as they had to go back to work and or give attention to the management of their businesses. In spite of the relatively small size of the economy, the level of unemployment there is very low at around 7.2%. The South African situation seems to be somewhere in the middle between that of Sweden and Kenya. It aptly captures the challenges of early childhood education experienced across the globe. This also highlights the extremities of South Africa, inherited from its apartheid past. Its population of 60 million is close to that of Kenya, while its GDP is around 302 billion US dollars, approaches that of Sweden. Its unemployment rate is exceptionally high. At the time of writing, it was 32.6%, which means about a third of the able-bodied people is not working, which is higher than that of both Sweden and Kenya. And this was exacerbated by the pandemic. The pandemic found South Africa deeply divided between and further exacerbated the class distinction between the affluent and the poorest communities. The levels of unemployment among the mainly African and poor were very high and continue to rise as a result of the lockdown. The above anomalies occurred in the provision of early childhood education. Inequalities on the basis of race were thus reproduced as learners from mainly African communities lagged behind educationally, economically, and otherwise. They are afflicted by poverty, malnutrition, high mortality rates, and antisocial behaviors. During the pandemic, children from these communities did not learn, and their homes did not have internet connectivity or electricity.
Thank you.
They are mainly white communities with a sprinkling of African middle class could continue with some kind of learning offered.
Please, as soon as you can, okay?
Sorry? Somebody speaking?
Yes, you have another minute for closure, please. Time is running.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you. Let me run to the conclusion because I thought I'd focus more also on the challenges. And then the conclusion, as I put forth, is that the presentation has demonstrated that there are lessons to be learned from countries that practice good early childhood education strategies during the pandemic. However, if their strategies are integrated logically to cater for all contexts, even better results can be achieved. This can then lead to the creation of sustainable early childhood learning environments through remote platforms. Central to the argument being pursued is the value and importance of community classrooms that engenders networking across context to include even non-conventional partners. I thank you, sir.
Professor, I hate to have had any reason to ask you to abbreviate your presentation because it has context, it has content. Your view of Sustainable Development Goals, particularly number 4, addresses exactly your points of view. You remember there are 10 targets, and 3 of those targets speaks to means of implementation, means of achievement. And so I encourage the panel, I encourage the participants to please look at Sustainable Development Goal number 4. And as an early childhood specialist myself, I am delighted to see, Professor, that you're focused on the needs of children, the needs of early childhood education, which is the 4th target of the SDG 4. That is early childhood development and universal pre-primary education globally. We have reached a juncture in this stimulating conference to hear those who were not given a speaker's role, but to hear from the speakers if they wish to interact, and to hear from you if you have any specific question. We would go into this for 15 minutes and then really wrap up such, I don't know how to describe it more than to say an engaging event. So the floor is open to the speakers first, who may wish to come in on any particular issue and or any of the participants who may have a question. Professor Sengupta, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was an excellent, wonderful meeting for me to attend. I've learned a lot, and I do relate a lot to the content of the mayor's speech. Belize, I have lots of friends, Garifuna friends in New York. We have faculty, Garifuna faculty in our college. And also in terms of the Ambassador Pinas, I already said that it is so important for us to have students understand their minds before they understand technology. There is a connection between one's mind and one's technology, especially digital technology. Real intelligence combined with artificial intelligence is the way to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. Is there any other interactant who wish to make a point before we move to the close? Professor Pinnis, you've been called. I wish to hear your response. Unmute your mic, please.
Yes, sorry. Technology. Yeah, so I would like to come back to the point of technology because I see new faces here in this conference, and I think that it would be okay to repeat what I mentioned in other settings, that when we talk about technology, we are actually looking at two terms put together. There is an adjective and a noun. Technical logic, that is what I suggest that should be understood when we're talking about technology. Okay, so it is a kind of logic that we are dealing with. But nowadays in our modern world, we use the word technology when we are actually talking about a technological product. So that brings us to focus deeper on when we use language, how we use language, because thoughts and language are not two brothers, they are the same person or the same thing. So when we're talking about technology, especially as we who would like to inform the society, inform the world, it would be very nice and very good to make use of the same vocabulary, even if we would be speaking different languages, right? So I take as reference for coming up with this kind of non-orthodox definitions from time spent in China and focusing on the Chinese language and trying to combine that with Western languages. So that's why I mentioned, sometimes you may have noticed what I'm doing is playing with definitions, playing with words like traditional culture, cultural tradition, right? And when we talk about education, traditional education and education tradition. So I shift the adjective with the noun, and in that way, calling on more attention to the noun and then shifting it back and to pay attention to the adjective. So in that way, you get a deeper understanding of the intrinsic meaning of what we're dealing with. So this is what I would like to add and say, 非常感谢。
谢谢. Thank you very much. 谢谢. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I think again you have, enriched your point of view and also inform us and to make us think. Is there any other person who wish to remark at this point, ask a question? If not,
a question, Ambassador, for the presenters.
Okay. Is there a question?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes. The one major question of concern is how can we actually integrate digital education in community classrooms, especially looking at the cultural resources and the environment in a particular community, the unattended attention to rebuilding community schools, and also the poverty level of homes. Can we really think that digital education can be made possible in communities, bearing in mind the huge impact of the process? One, the student themselves will be educated to the use of technology and whatever instrument or technological device that is provided. Again, the teachers as well, the most of the in most communities, qualified teachers are not seen in communities, probably because of unconducive teaching and learning environment. They all cluster in urban areas. How best can we, or what strategy can we adopt to move this train in order to ensure that education is inclusive, is quality, and nobody is left behind?
Well, I believe your question also inferred a number of answers. I think that this point which you've posed is quite another context in itself. We have to look, and if I may interject, that we're talking about infrastructure, both physical and institutional. If we are to look at what we have today and where we want to go. Now, I heard Ambassador Pina spoke about tradition, and I wonder, does tradition stay the same? So we have to begin to look very, very, very carefully at how we address ourselves, mindful of culture, traditional education, discussion on the funding for sustainable quality and inclusive education. We have to know what in this infrastructure we're going to renovate, we're going to eradicate, we're going to build on, or we're going to reconstruct. So I think we're setting ourselves up for a new dialogue. And I want to just stop here and ask if anyone wants to respond to that before we close.
Yeah, may I say something? May I say something?
Certainly, certainly.
Dr. Ada, we in New York City, in the South Bronx, which is probably the poorest region of the entire New York State, we have developed partnerships with poor schools who cannot afford computer technology for their children. And we get them into the college, and our students act as interns, helping young children to use computers in pretty much the same way they are learning from their professors. So that's one way of extending the college to the community.
Well said. Dr. Ada, your hand is still up. Is it that you want to say something again? Okay.
No, my hand is down.
Sometimes a good conversation. Jessica, did you want to say something?
Unmute yourself.
Okay, maybe I can share some experiences in Canada right now, recently, actually, because I worked in a nonprofit organization and we provide lots of services to immigrants. And we help people with their application online and hosted workshops using Zoom and digital media. And we also use Moodles to provide the online courses directly to help the immigrants, such as a citizenship application process. And so people can learn it anytime and anywhere. And actually the government's citizen exam has also gone online. And so for the people who have limited access, they can borrow the Chromebooks from the community agencies for free. Yeah. So, but I believe, just like I said, we know like technology is very important, but we think actually the people who use the technology is their mindset is the most important. So that's why we think I did mention about if the people they have for any whatever, no matter what rules you are playing. So actually, if you can like control your so that's why we say the mindset is very important. So we emphasize the conscience, that kind of things for every different community. Yeah. But for the technology part, I think for some, so that's why we say the people who make the final decision is really important, because they will know how to distribute the resources evenly for the people who may not have the access to use the technology. Yeah, that's what I can think of right now. Yeah, thank you.
Let me say thank you again. I believe that in the interest of the time we have accorded for this event, that we have reached a point where we need to sum up and agree that we've had a good discourse. We have had a good conversation. This conversation also has been revealing. It has provided us with the mindsets of so many intellectuals in this panel. I want to thank each of you. I want to thank the mayor for her time, the professor for his time, that's Professor Jaffrey, and to thank Jessica and the foundation. And I mean, if I continue to call names now, I may leave one of your names out and you would feel bad. So I want to say, I want to thank each of you for enriching this panel. There will be a summary of the targets that we have pulled from this discussion that can make action steps. So what we need here today is not just the talk that we had, but to identify some action steps that will assist us in rebuilding quality, inclusive education and revitalize community classroom. The concept of community classroom was touched on. It means a community learning space for everybody to be at ease, to be given access to opportunity. So we want to talk about the traditional education curriculum. We want to talk about the teachers and the professional well-being, because teachers must also learn. Teachers must also relearn. Teachers must also retool. So we're talking about an infrastructure that is institutional and physical, so we can get connected. A child goes to school and have broadband width and access to technology, and he goes home and he doesn't have light. So we have to begin to talk about how we are mindful of culture, traditional education. The discussion we have had on funding and sustainable quality is very critical. So we need project type proposals. So we go forward on some action steps to really fill the holes and rebuild, close the gaps. We need concrete objectives with measurable criteria. Now, what makes what we're talking about successful? I think the Professor Jaffrey and Jessica and and Belize, they were touching on some concrete measures that we can say is working and may work. It may be able to be replicated in your area. So we need concrete objectives with measurable criteria. We need benchmarks outlined in some milestone phases. What is traditional education today when traditions continue to evolve? What is the period of tradition that we are celebrating? Based on which generation because generations come, generations go, and each one embraces the culture and the tradition in a different way. So we have to begin to look at how is the tradition retained to preserve uniqueness while at the same time disaggregating traditions to separate them into component parts that reveal strengths and areas where there is need for improvement. So, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Menakaya Bajuni Foundation and the conveners,
Center for SDG,
Center for SDG,
SDG Global Education, and
it's a long collaborative effort here. Dr. Ada has continued to
Ambassador, somebody from the floor was raising her hand up. Dr. Esther Okoye, can you give her 1 minute?
Where
please?
is, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing her. Dr.
I'm
Esther,
spotting her right now.
yes, we can't. Dr. Esther, you have the floor, please.
Greetings, everyone, all your majesties, all protocol observed. I think all I felt like I ate a big scrumptious meal today. It was really a pleasure to be in your midst. I thank you, Her Excellency Dr. Ada, for inviting me. And to our moderator, thank you so much, Dr. Antoine. I just wanted to ask a question about children with disability. I know that we talked about traditional learning in the classroom. Of course, the e-learning is not open for people that are really having difficulty. Children with dyslexia, autism, there's a whole lot. I didn't hear us speaking about them today. And I would like for anyone who have the knowledge about this population of students to please give us more light on how to handle issues concerning the students with disability. Thank you.
I thank you very much. At this point, I hope that each of you will agree with me.
Well, let me particularly call on website because it did mention. Go ahead, over to you, sir.
You broke up. I did not get clearly what you said.
Can you hear me?
Now I'm hearing you, but break it.
Were you able to hear me?
No, I did not get your question.
I did. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was, my question is student with disability. I did not hear us discuss issues with students with disability, students with autism, students with Asperger, or students who are struggling with remote learning and or e-learning, as we reference to. I know that Engineer Ang Weisbeck mentioned interactive learning, hands-on learning. I would like for her to please give us more information if she has encountered students with learning disability and how had that fed out. Thank you so much.
I ask that each person who is not speaking to mute the mic, please.
I'm so sorry if did you hear my question?
Yes, but
am I still breaking up? Maybe it's my internet connection.
It was a little distorted, but I think we got the gist. Now, you wanted
maybe it's my
respond,
internet
right?
connection. Can you hear? Can you hear?
Yes.
We heard you, Dr. Koye. It's okay. I think she rooted her question on disability to engineer Anki from Uganda, and I think that's what she was looking at the case of people with disabilities.
Thank you very much for your question. Myself, I have no experience with working with disabled people. I have experience with working with deaf people, and the deaf culture have the deaf people considering themselves in the two clusters. It's the cultural deaf and the medical deaf. And the medical deaf, they accept the word disabled. The cultural deaf does not accept the word deaf, disabled. For them, it's a culture, the sign language culture people. Personally, I've mentored cultural deaf people, and it's like any other. It's just the channel of communication is different, but in the cognitive action in terms of technical and skills development is similar. I also note that according to literature, autistic children, some of them have high potential in being great innovators and solving uniquely community issues. Thank you.
I thank you for enriching our minds with your term, the cultural deaf and the medical deaf. That's very interesting. Current, what I call labeling of sensory impairments. And I thank you very much. I hope that our panel took note of this new, to me, it's new to talk about cultural deaf. I really appreciate hearing this. Again, I think we were just at a point of closing. We were about to close, and I do not think of any way we can put on this conference. To say more will be overload. And I don't want us to be overloaded. I want us to be able to take with us a very salient points of interest. And as educators, as scholars, I heard many scholars speak today. I want again to thank Dr. Ada for her coordination of this very critical events. The Center for SDG Global Education USA partners at the United Nations. And this session is creating a platform for diverse stakeholders and experts to continue to discuss and to bring to the table solutions. And the solutions, I do hope, will be the solutions that would generate total quality, innovative solutions and strategies, and policy recommendations with the view of advancing the determination of quality policy, creating and implementing planning that assures quality control and improvement measures. So with that in mind, the goal is that we would help students build their confidence and find joy in learning through a strengthened base approach. So I really want to talk about the strength-based approach for teachers and children to learn. If we can agree today that we have indeed met each other on a good front, we have expressed our commitment to continuing to put on the table issues and ideas and solutions, you will get a report that shares with you what the rapporteur has assessed as the outcome of this event. I want to thank you. I want to thank you and encourage you to remain engaged. And I'm sure Dr. Ada, as convener, will continue to keep in touch with you. Without much more ado, I want to say good luck, stay safe out there, and let us remain connected. The session is ended. I thank you very much.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Your Excellency Ambassador Antoine, for your wonderful guidance and support. We can never have a father more than you. I think after the death of our parents, you are our next father. You've been so supportive to this initiative, and we appreciate you so dearly. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Professor Peanut. You encouraged me to this event by our discussion after the August 22nd. Your thought really moved this event, and I appreciate that so well, because it's like, from our discussion, issues about traditional education, the core values of education that made our ancestors great in education, is still going away. And if we are talking about digital education, how can we then integrate that? So that was a wonderful thought, and it inspired this thought. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Dr. Chivaj. It's just within 24 hours I got to you, and you are here with me. So I appreciate everyone. And Engineer Ang from Uganda and Professor Godfrey from South Africa, I can't thank you, Lord, because your time is of our time, and we are here again with you. So I appreciate you very well. God bless you, everyone. Ambassador, thank you excellently.
In closing, I wish everyone to get children on board, and I'm encouraging you to take a look at Get On Board, Children of the World. It's in 5 languages, and it is a book that brings children to embrace the SDGs. Get On Board, Children of the World. This is the Korean version. So we are including children in the process. I thank you. I have been stimulated. I've been excited on this panel. So keep me excited. Thank you very kindly.
In fact, the Arimenakaya School has started the SDG School Club, and we are looking for sponsors to give out 1 million of this book to the children in the community, because of the SDG School Club. And this Get Children on Board is solely on SDGs. So we need partners to ensure that we're able to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Nice weekend. And the
Thank you.
website that I just shared is free download and free watch for the kids. If you are interested, it's in our website.
Yes.
And Tuesday is World Teachers Day. If you have any input,
yes, we have a online event on the coming World Teachers Day, and we have a program celebrating this day. So you're welcome to join us. I'll share out the website link, no, YouTube link. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we organize the online event every month. Yeah, in support of UN Days. Okay, see you again.
Happy weekend.
Everyone.
See you again.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night, Holland. Good night, South Africa. Good night, Uganda.
Good night.
Good
night. Belmopan. Give my regards to Belize.
Goedenavond,
to Belize.
Allemaal, goedenavond.
Thank you all.
Send me some punta.
Please don't go yet. I need a picture of this shot. Don't go yet. I need a shot of this.
Send us some Punta Rock from Belize.
Yes.
And where
Oh my God, what am I doing?
From Grenada.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
All right. All the best.
And 1 minute, I've just been appointed to be the founder of Capital City 35.
Ah,
Because of my knowledge of the Spanish language, I am the link between the Americas, Central America, and the Caribbean. So the mayor of Grenada, I will get to meet that person,
certainly.
whosoever he or she is.
The Assistant Secretary General Mendez, Nestor Mendez, send his regards.
Okay, and that's the mayor of Grenada?
That's the Assistant Secretary General for the OAS.
Okay. Nice. Well, nice listening to you.
Oh my God.
Ambassador, and we'll keep in touch.
You bet I will.
Ambassador, she's
right.
an excellent, excellent advocate. We need to get her on board.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Thank
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Happy weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. See you on Tuesday. Happy weekend. Thank you all.